undid the buttons on the suit, trying to figure out how in the world this thing was supposed to go together. I'd just taken an incredible bath back at Dalinar's palace, following the battle that had happened. And just the whole thing that they had indoor plumbing was incredible to me. They didn't even have electricity or anything, but super, super interesting. And they'd given me a suit to change into because my clothes had been torn up through the fighting that had happened, though I hadn't received a scratch, and I still didn't know how that happened. But every time I tried to think back, I couldn't quite remember what had happened. But I didn't think too much about it. I tried to rebutton up the royal blue suit that they had given me. And I thought, yeah, I think I got it right this time. I stepped out, and the attendant who had led me here stopped me for a moment and redid the buttons. I was like, okay, fine. So confusing all over the place. But he led me down, out into the main hall and down the main stairs, and directed me to a bench where I could wait for the others as they finished getting ready. He left me there, and I just watched everybody going around and finished drying on my ears so I could put the earbuds back in. As I was drying out my ears, I listened for what exactly their speaking sounded like, and it was completely incomprehensible. Sharp, fast consonants, and I didn't get anything. And again, the moment I put in the earbuds, it all came back. And I thought, man, this is such incredible technology. I sat there enjoying the scene and still the sense of victory that I felt. And I felt that there should be some amount of horror at what I'd done, but I couldn't feel that. And I wasn't sure exactly how, but I was glad for that much at least. As I waited and looked around, my eyes caught sight of Scar as she came into view and began to walk down the stairs. She was wearing royal blue, like I was, but they'd given her a dress that wrapped around her top and seemed to flow around her legs, and her one arm was completely swathed in cloth. The other ended showing her hand. Her hair had been done up, and bright red braids, and it was... She was gorgeous. I stood up and just watched her come down the stairs. She came and stood beside me and said, "What's the matter, Axehound? Got your tongue?" I said, "I don't even know what that's supposed to mean." She said, "That's all right. You look pretty good yourself." I said, I didn't say anything. She said, "Well, I did. What you gonna do about it?" And she took a seat down on the bench next to me. I sat back down with her, and she regarded me for a moment with her green eyes before finally settling back and putting her head on my shoulder. She said, "I've waited a long time for this." I said, "What, to sit on a bench? I recall doing this the first time we met." She said, "No, to go to one of the king's feasts. Dalinar's never let me go. Not everything's about you, G." I said, "Oh, such a good moment gone," but I figured that was how it was going to be with Scar. I was okay with that. I liked how things were going. Dalinar came down and joined us, as did his sons, the one that had come with us on the battle, and another of his sons that hadn't come with us. And we stepped into a carriage, and they took us. We rode for a while and came out to the king's feast, which we came out gorgeous just as the sun was setting. Do they still call it the sun? I'm not sure. but just as the sun was setting, and there were big round stone platforms connected by bridges with rivers running in between and glowing gems in the rivers. It created just the most spectacular scene. And they directed us to one of the platforms. It seemed to be separated by like caste, I guess. And so we were out separate from the rest of the party, and I was fine with that. We sat down at a table and Scar explained that food would be coming soon, and we just began to talk about things, and I said, Scar, something's kind of bugging me and kind of not bugging me, which bugs me. And she said, what are you talking about? I said, well, I fought incredibly well today, better than I should have been able to. And Scar said, well, that's definitely true. I expected to spend most of the time just protecting you, but you held your own. I had no idea you had that in you. And I said, well, yeah, me too. I was doing things that I am not able to do. And even now, I can't remember exactly what happened. I feel like something's blocking my mind. I said, that's not you, is it? Because I feel like you've done that before. Like in Teletubbies. And she shuddered at the mention of that. And she said, I was protecting you from most of the complex mentally, but not today. No, I wasn't doing that. That just made me wonder what exactly it was, but Scar didn't have any answers. They brought food out to us, and it smelled incredible. Spicy curry type dish with vegetables I'd never seen before. I dug in, and it was incredible, if not a little bit spicy. And I realized that I hadn't eaten since breakfast, and I'd been in a war since then. I thought, man, it's been a long day. But I enjoyed my meal, and we continued to talk. And it continued to get dimmer, and there were lights on the table and lights in the water that lit up the whole area. After we finished eating, I pulled my chair around to the side of the table so I could sit next to her, and we turned and faced the water to see as the stars began to appear and reflected in the placid water, and to see all of the gemstones and the people mingling and talking from across the way. And I said, there's one more thing another question that I had today. And Scar said, yeah? What was that? And I said, well, you said that to get here you think of home. And I felt what you feel as home. And that's not how I associate home. What happened? It took a minute for Scar to answer. She sat staring at an amethyst in the water. She looked at me with pained eyes and finally sighed, and she said, my home was never ideal. I don't believe in a perfect fairy tale situation. You've got to make a home with what you've got. My family was that way, and it was only harder after my mom died. My dad had never been good at controlling himself, his anger, his actions, his drinking, and it only got worse after that. I left home soon after that and haven't been back since. I said, Scar, I'm sorry. She said, don't be. It's what it is. I've learned to live with it. It's fine. And traveling's helped me get away from it. It hasn't solved all my problems, but it helps. She said, we have been given power to combine worlds, do things that should be impossible. Some people would see us as gods, but there's still things we can't do. I tried to bring her back. I tried to split off a separate timeline and live there, but it doesn't work. She said there are some things that you have to live with. But it's okay, because I have you. And I said, Scar, that got really sappy. She said, hey, I'm trying to have a moment here. I said, sorry, I'm new with all this. She said, just shut up and kiss me already. I turned and looked at her, and she really was beautiful. I leaned in and kissed her in the cool summer breeze with the night around us, and it felt like I was traveling. A few hours later, I landed my broom on the front yard. It was dark there too. I didn't care who saw me. I felt so good. I sheathed my vehicle and stepped in the front door and immediately became conscious about who was watching. My mom passed from the kitchen and saw me and said, whoa, Reggie, nice suit. What's going on? She set down the laundry bin that she'd been carrying, and I thought, I need to tell my parents. They need to know. They need to know what's going on. I can't keep hiding things from them. And I didn't. I told her about Scarlet, and that we'd been to like a medieval dinner type thing. And she wanted to know everything about Scarlet. And as I told, I couldn't quite tell her about traveling, but it felt so good to tell her about Scarlet and everything that had gone on there. And she thrived off that kind of stuff. She loved it. And after she'd exhausted all of the questions that I could answer, she finally let me go, and I went up to my room at complete peace. End of chapter 14.